Hello, welcome to the Raw and Apple podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about the Zodiac Killer, who he is, what he did, and debunk a conspiracy about him. The Zodiac Killer is arguably one of the most notorious killers of the 20th century. He actually gave himself the title Zodiac in the cryptic letters he sent to the press during his murder spree. Throughout the late 1960s and 70s, the Zodiac Killer terrorized most of the larger San Francisco area. You're probably asking how he did that. Leaving detailed letters describing his victims, exactly how he did it, and would mock the police or anyone who tried to catch him in these letters. These letters were sent to multiple newspapers and police departments that were investigating the cases, and along with complicated codes that are still being decoded to this day. So, obviously, the Zodiac Killer was following his case, in the news. Because he was sending his letters to the police departments and whatnot. And so, anyways, the first kill recorded took place on December 20th, 1968. 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen and 17-year-old David Faraday were on their first date. Nothing out of the normal for kids their age, right? Young and in love. And so they planned to stop at a local restaurant to have a nice dinner, right, before driving out to Lake Herman Road, which was a well-known lover's lane. But just a few minutes after parking in a graveled area just off the side of Lake Herman Road, a man parked beside the couple's car, rolled down his window, and ordered them to get out. The two were alarmed. I would have been too. And obviously they refused. Who is this guy? It wasn't common for people to do those kinds of things back then. Why would he want to hurt them anyway? What did they owe him? Instead of immediately shooting the two teenagers, the man walked behind the couple's car and fired a bullet into their rear left wheel housing. Sure enough, the two scrambled to exit the vehicle using the passenger side door. The killer then ran up to the driver's side window and pressed the gun against David's left ear, shooting him point blank in the skull. By this time...
No, he didn't.
Yeah. So, by this time, Betty had already exited the vehicle and was running away. The man ran after Betty, gun extended, and shot Betty 5 times in the back.
Not Betty. No.
He then returned to his own vehicle and drove off shortly after 11 p.m. This sounds like something you would see in a movie, American Horror Stories or something,
Yeah, you're right.
But unfortunately, this was real, and I couldn't imagine being in a situation like that. What are you even supposed to do? I guess running is your best option.
Run faster, I guess.
So, some things that we should take notice of are that the Zodiac targeted young students, usually couples. All attacks occurred on weekends. Attacks were usually at dusk or night. He would brag about his murders in letters or anonymous calls to the police. And all of his murders were in or around cars. So also something you should take note of is this was when payphones were a thing. And they obviously could use it anonymously if they didn't say their name or something, because even though it could be tracked to that payphone doesn't have someone's name in it.
Oh, so that's what we taunted the police on.
Right, yeah. And he also sent anonymous letters.
That makes sense.
So, big question. Who is he? Why is he doing this? What was his intent? Well, unfortunately, this case was dismissed as a cold case. If you don't know, a case becomes cold when all options of an investigation lead to a dead end and the primary investigators are exhausted and the case remains open and unsolved after a period of 3 years. And this case happened 60 years ago and is still being investigated to this day. With all that in mind, we can now get started into the video. The biggest question is, who is the Zodiac Killer? Who would kill 5 people and somehow, in some way, get away with something so awful. Well, William Mcduff Andrew. Out of thousands of suspects, William's name came up the most. He grew up in Viejo, California. I meant to say Vallejo, I'm sorry. Living in apartments just 500 feet from the Springs, which, the Springs, is where the Zodiac claimed his second victims on December 20th, 1968, in their cars with a .22 semi-automatic pistol. The same gun, killing David and Betty.
Was that his signature weapon?
Yeah, he used that a lot. He also used a knife in some of his killings as well.
Really?
Yes. So, maybe that's just a coincidence, right? But some can argue that this is a picture of William, and this is a picture drawn out from his victim, Michael, who survived the attack that describes the Zodiac killer's appearance. There's no doubt in my mind that they don't look similar. Like, their glasses, the face shape, even the hair.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't see a difference.
Maybe that's unlucky, though. Some can argue, you know? Some people have a foggy memory after experiencing a traumatic event. Maybe Michael identified the Zodiac killer, like, wrongly.
Yeah, it's possible.
Like, maybe he saw his face somewhere and kind of just, like, put it in as that, you know what I mean?
Maybe he just thought he looked like a creep and blamed him.
Right. And so, Michael identified the Zodiac killer as 5'8", 195 to 200 pounds-ish, with a larger face, and anywhere between the ages of 26 to 30 years old, so pretty young. Well, guess what? William was 24, 5'8", and 200 pounds. Sounds almost identical if you think about it. I mean, even looking at the pictures, you would be like side by side, you would think that the pictures are drawn out. The picture was drawn using reference of his face. So, on July 5th, 1969, 30 to 40 minutes after the Blue Rock Springs attack, which was another attack that the Zodiac committed, killing 2 people.
Vallejo Police Department.
I want to report a double murder.
Yeah, yes, your
Go
name
1
and where
mile
you're calling.
east on Columbus Parkway, Public Park. You'll find kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye.
Oh my goodness. That video is so chilling. I hate that. Ew.
Kills in pairs, huh?
Yes. Usually it's couples that he kills, and he claimed to have killed 37 people, but they only have 5 on record. And the reason it's 5 is because one of them survived, which was Michael, but unfortunately his girlfriend died.
How many survivors were there?
I think
Just
there were
him?
2, but it might have just been Michael. So, the Zodiac called the police from the phone booth approximately 500 feet from William's parents' house. It's weird how it's all happening in the same area, but maybe that's a coincidence just because William lived around the area. But how much can coincidentally tie to you in that aspect? You know? Sounds a little weird to me. The evidence is so clear. And on November 16th, 2014, William died at Evergreen Hospice House in Albany, Oregon, after a long battle with MDS and leukemia. Not soon after, his spouse came out to say that she found some old belongings of his. She found a box of William's old stuff that was called the guilt box, with the words guilt written on the side. Why would he put guilt on the side of that? Inside the box was a copy of David Kahn's book, The Codebreakers, the same book experts believe the Zodiac used as a guide to creating his letters. Isn't that weird? Why would he have a Codebreakers book? And if you guys don't know what the Codebreakers book looks like, I will show you here. It's weird. There's no doubt in my mind that it's not weird. There's so much evidence tying to this guy. But Reprise fan on Reddit comments, until a full DNA sample is taken from one of the authenticated Zodiac letters and a genealogy test is done to match the exact person. None of these suspects mean anything. We have the technology and means to identify the Zodiac fully, and I don't know why it hasn't been done. And I guess I agree with that. I wonder why they haven't done a genealogy test yet. It's a little odd, but at the same time, the letters are really old, so maybe they can't get the DNA.
Yeah, it's true.
This is where I'm feeling a little bit of cognitive dissonance. And because of that, I feel a little uncomfy. And because I'm kind of at a crossroad where it's like, do I agree that, I mean, obviously, William could possibly not be it, but there's so much evidence tying to him.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I think it was him, but
Yeah.
the real question is, did the killing stop after he died?
Right. But we don't know who the Zodiac killer is, and I think it was like the mid-1970s when he sent his last letter. That was the last he had ever been heard of. In one of his letters, he mentioned how he was going to stop announcing his killings and calling the police and whatnot. And so, we don't know. We don't know if he's alive or dead, technically.
Could still be out there.
He could. Do you think he is?
I think he is.
Now, this is just one of many suspects. There's, like, Arthur Lee, who is also a prime suspect, who people recently actually believe it's him. I haven't done research into him yet, but he was on the news, like, a week ago, and they were, like, saying that it's almost confirmed that it's him. But
maybe he's a copycat killer. Who knows?
it's just a theory. Alright, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys for your time. Say bye.
Bye.